Welcome back to another episode of White History. This will be part 17, focused on the Circassians. So, the Circassians, they are a couple of things that pop up, at least in my mind, that brought this topic about. I like to play, games from time to time. So, Circassians are featured or mentioned in Sid Meier's Civilization series. They're one of the, seed civilizations that you come across that will grant you some kind of level up knowledge-wise or something like that. Also, there was a movie in the 1950s or 60s starring Sidney Poitier and Laurence Olivier called The Longships. And in that movie, those two stars mentioned, one plays a Moor, which we will refer to in, I'm not even going to say ancient times, post, 16, post, but you could even go back to the 1800s, early 1900s, and see mentions in different books and all of that of even here in the United States of us being referred to as Moors. But that's a whole other topic for when we get to that part of the history series. But we starting east, working our way west. So anyway, the Circassians, were featured prominently in this movie called The Longships. If you ever get a chance and you bored one night, check it out. They drop a lot of gems, and for the racial climate in the United States at that time, for them to have a movie like that out in theaters at that time, that was ballsy. Very controversial, for sure. I'm certain. Okay, so with that said, let's go on and hop right on in. So, before we get to who, what is a Circassian as defined by Encyclopedia Britannica? Circassian is a member of a Caucasian people speaking a Northwest Caucasian language. C. Carbadian language. Okay, now who are the Circassians? That's what we're about to hop into. So now it says they refer to themselves as Adige or Aduge or Aduge. According to one view, the name derives from Atige or Atige, meaning high in altitude, to signify a mountaineer, as the Circassian people have lived in or near the mountains for thousands of years. So with that said, we're going to slide right along. Pardon me. You see the Circassian flag here. We got 3 arrows. You got 12 stars, I believe. Yep, and the 12 stars stand for the following Circassian tribes that I'll try my very best to pronounce. And you can remind me or let me know in the comments if I got them sort of correct or if I just butchered everything. So we'll start with the first one. Abzak, the Abzak tribe. You have the Besleni tribe. You have the Bezedu tribe. The Hatukwai tribe. Next, the Kabadians. Next, we have the Mamkeg. Next up, we have the Natukaj. You have the Shap Su tribe. The Chermigwe tribe. You have the Ubik tribe. Next, you have the Yegu'uk-Wai tribe. And finally, the Zanet tribe. So that covers that. 12 tribes on their flag. And as we progress through their story, we'll learn a little bit more. All right, so from prehistoric to first century, we have from 3000 to 1000 BC. Basically, the Northwest Caucasus was home to an advanced megalithic culture, evident in construction of dolmens, which were stone burial structures with sophisticated engineering for that time. From 2000 to 1000 BC, early ancestors of the Circassians lived in the region, likely forming part of the broader North Caucasian cultural sphere. Some scholars link them to Indo-European, you're going to always keep hearing that, groups, and the Hatti of Anatolia, because there's a relationship there. Even on the History Channel, they will say the Proto-Indo-European connection. They show you the shit in Indiana Jones. Watch those Indiana Jones. Watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. Watch them first 2 or 3 joints. There is a relationship and a history, because as we've been slowly dog walking this topic, the Caucasians that invaded India in the past, in antiquity, and was right outside the Great Wall of China, giving the Chinese cause for concern. They're the same ones that made their way into modern day Europe. But, all in the good time we'll get there. All right, so the Proto-Aduge tribes, they were the early ancestors of the Circassians who lived in that region, as we touched on. You jump from years 1000 to 500 BC. The Greek and Roman historians recorded the presence of the Maeotians and the Sindhi into the Black region. These tribes, ancestors of the Circassians, controlled trade routes between the Caucasus and the Mediterranean. So, even though it was ancient times, they was trying to get that money. All right, so boom. From 700 to 100 BC, now you have the appearance of the Scythians and the Sarmatians. It says the warlike Scythians and later the Sarmatians, who we covered in another video, migrated into the region, influencing and intermingling with local Caucasian tribes. So basically, these are other white tribes that are coming into the mix now. You know what I'm saying? So these people been chilling, minding their business for the most part, and now they got other white tribes rolling up. Whether war or peaceful, and there you have it. Moving along. So we're still in the prehistoric phase leading up to the pre-1st century. So from the 6th to the 4th centuries BC, you have Greek city-states that established trade routes along the colonies, the area of the Black Sea coast, engaging with the Circassians' ancestors in commerce and cultural exchange. From the 5th century to the 4th century AD, you have the Maeotians and the Sindhi or the Sindhi, they became subjects of the Greek-dominated Bosporan kingdom, but they still maintained some kind of autonomy and influencing its cavalry forces. So, it sounded like while they were partially under some kind of control, they might have been like, look, you know, we still, you know, play a major part in this situation. And most of our people are a major part of your little cavalry forces. So don't try to get too fly. You know what I mean? We'll acknowledge this little situation for right here, but don't be trying to do too much. You know what I'm saying? All right, so moving on. Roman influence. 1st century BC to 1st century AD. The Romans expanded their reach into the Black Sea region, occasionally encountering the Circassian tribes, but however, the mountainous terrain and strong resistance limited direct Roman control. So what history teach you, terrain, it go back to the saying, real estate, location, location, location. They was posted up in the mountains, and people had to think probably 2 and 3 times before even trying to really, do I need these problems? Is it worth the trouble? You know what I mean? So that's what that was. All right. So now ancient origins and early history. So now we're getting into 1st through the 9th centuries. So the Sinti Meotian tribes, the ancestors of the Circassians, continue to inhabit the Caucasus area, maintaining their distinct identity despite foreign influences. And it's probably once again because people didn't want to go up into the mountains and they ain't want no problems up there. So from a social side of things or a religious side, it looks like from the 3rd to the 5th centuries, you had the spread of Christianity, which influence was spread by Armenian and Byzantine missionaries, which led to the Christianization of those earlier Circassian tribes. By the 4th century, a feudal society developed among the Circassians, forming the basis of future princely states. In that same century, you had the Bulgar invasions, plural. The Circassians at that time, I guess, are identified as the Adige / Kassags, clash with the migrating Bulgars from the Central Asian steppes. So you got this small world starting to get a little bit more crowded. You feel me? Like, damn, who are these cats trying to come through? All right, so next they touch on integration into Alania. Alania is the kingdom of the Alans. Let's see, the kingdom of Alania absorbed Circassian tribes after the decline of the Khazar state. And for those who might have a little tiny bit of awareness or may have heard that phrase or that saying, the Khazars would later become the Khazarians. But it looks like at this point, whatever little empire they had was starting to be on the downturn, allowing another kingdom to exert influence over the Circassians. All right, so 1st millennium AD, kind of already addressed a lot of stuff from the previous bullet point. We'll jump into the Middle Ages, the 10th through the 15th centuries. The Georgian influence. So between 10th and 13th centuries, Georgia exerted cultural and political influence on Circassia. You also had the kingdom of Zychia, a medieval Circassian kingdom known in Greek as Zixia, which existed during that time in the region. I'm not even going to try to pronounce, that other word there. Anyway, moving on. In the 1200s, you had the Mongol invasions, plural. You know what I'm saying? Genghis Khan and them was too much to handle. The Mongols invaded the Caucasus, devastating Circassian and Alan territories. The Alans was no chumps either. You feel me? So for Genghis Khan and them boys, they smashed everybody damn near in their path. You a bully, I'm bullying the bullies. You feel me? That's what this is. The Circassians had lost land and had to retreat to the Kuban River because of the Golden Horde attacks. And finally, by the end of the 1300s, 1395, give or take, they came up against another dude who was not to be trifled with, Tamerlane. Tamerlane is mentioned in some of the other videos I've done. He's bumped heads, he's done conquered and smashed other civilizations in this series. So you're gonna keep hearing that name, and we might have to just do a solo video on him himself. You know what I mean? The way history is starting to tell me over the series of these different civilizations. You got Genghis Khan, and then your boy Tamerlane was right up under there. For that region in history, wasn't to be messed with. All right, so it says that the Circassians, they fought against him. They won some battles, but they suffered from his plundering campaigns. And then they also mention around the 1380s, the Mamluk dynasty, the Circassian slaves took control of the Mamluk throne, establishing the Circassian Burji dynasty in Egypt. So clearly, you have members of this civilization that, while the majority of them stayed home in the Caucasus Mountain region, there were some that were, wanted to explore and travel and maybe try to settle in other regions within the Mediterranean. And clearly, this group that went through that were enslaved and then eventually broke free and then took control for a time, establishing their own dynasty in Egypt in the almost 14th century. So to give some additional color, right, when I was going back and forth with a lot of the people that I guess I'll identify, or they identified themselves as Egyptian, as North African. They was talking about, they white. This is why they're saying what they're saying. You feel me? We're getting closer to who, what, why, where, when. Egypt was never a white situation from the jump. Egypt became more lighter in population. As far as rulership, leadership, due to Caucasians coming in countless times through history and invading, and what's the two words? R word and pillage. But they don't want to talk about that. They want to romanticize shit like motherfuckers been just posted up since day one. No. Now there's the enlightened, folks out there that understand these facts. There's those with common sense that understand that shit. Motherfuckers couldn't even last the weekend in Daytona during spring break without getting third-degree sunburns, let alone y'all was out there allegedly from the jump. No. North Africa, and especially Egypt, Algeria, Libya, a lot of those areas start to get lightened up and whitened up due to the numerous invasion after invasion of Caucasians coming in. When you go to invade, you coming to invade the city, the capital. You don't give a fuck about what's going on in the countryside, which is why, if you probably peep game, and for those who do travel and move and shake, when you go to certain areas, the in town or in the city, the more rich folk are going to be more lighter white looking, or mulattoes that are the buffer class between basically white supremacy and the indigenous dark population that still is there in those countries that are being done dirty and treated unfairly. But anyway, I gotta give context when I have a chance to put this shit into perspective for y'all. So clearly, they are emphasizing that these white slaves took control and established a dynasty in Egypt in the 14th century. If Egypt been white the whole time, there would be no need to emphasize that these Circassian slaves took control of Egypt. You feel me? Put your 2 cents together. Alright, anyway, moving on and moving along. We're going to touch on this gentleman, Prince Annals. I tried to find a picture. Maybe by the time I post this and get the thumbnail all the way how I want it, maybe I'll find a better picture of Prince Annals. But I had only found like a brass silver engraving of him. But to move on, in the 1400s, Prince Annals was a leader from the Taman Peninsula, and he sought to unite the Circassians. Conquest of Circassia. He defeated 30 lords and successfully united all of the different territories. So, moving along, he ended up moving further into Abkhazia. He extended his rule into northern Abkhazia, gaining recognition from the Abkhaz people. One of the stars on the Abkhazian flag symbolizes him. He was that dude from their culture's perspective. Alright, so we have we're at 1453, where it looks like things are starting to go left a little bit. It says that Annals divided his territories among his descendants before his death in 1458. And then after Annals' death, principalities like Chemgoi, founded by Temruk, Besleni, founded by Beslan, Kabardia, founded by Kabard, and Shapsug, founded by Zanoko, emerged. So now instead of being united again, it seemed like they were united briefly, but then they broke back up into these little, I guess, provinces, or something equivalent to that, principalities, I guess. So moving on, the 17th to 18th century, we got Russian and the Ottoman trying to creep in. Alright, so in the 17th century, the Circassians gradually converted to Islam, with Sunni Islam becoming dominant. On the Russian side of things, Peter I had devised a strategy to occupy the Caucasus, initiating Russian expansion. But it looks like it was Catherine II who began executing the plan by deploying Russian forces along the Tarik River. I'm assuming that's Tarik, but it could be Tarek, but we'll go with Tarik for now until somebody in the comments correct me and educate me. So also in this time period, we have the Ottoman Empire exerting influence somehow. It says Sultan Murad IV and the Crimean Khans promoted Islamization among the Circassians. So now other civilizations, empires, directly and indirectly, are just kind of giving off them vibes to where, they're like, I guess this is what it is now, Earlier in the history, as we've seen, they were influenced by Christianity. Now we on this Islam wave. So it is what it is, right? So it goes on to say that Sufi orders such as the Qadiri and the Naqshbandi played a major role in spreading Islam amongst the Circassians. And now we're heading into the 1700s to 1860s, 1760s to 1860s. During this time, Russians built forts to impose authority, but it went left, it backfired. It just made the Circassians want to rebel against them. General Yermolov used harsh tactics, including village destruction and targeted civilians. That's never a good move right there. Next, Circassian Tribal Federation. It says that the Circassians formed a federation to resist Russian expansion. And then in 1840, Carl Friedrich Neumann estimated at least 1.5 million Circassians that were killed, which is why, as we see the title of this slide, the Circassian Genocide. But moving along, it says that the final Russian campaigns from 1860 to 1864, the Russian military forcibly expelled Circassians from their homeland. In 1864, in May, the Battle of Krasnaya Polyana was the last major battle that saw 20,000 Circassian horsemen wiped out by 100,000 Russian troops. Historians have termed the widespread killings and deportations Circassian massacres. You have mass deaths. Once again, researchers estimate between 75 to 97% of the population at that time perished or were displaced. The Ottoman Empire resettled Circassians in Anatolia, the Balkans, Transjordan, Syria, and other major cities. So, before we even move forward, obviously, these people, the Circassians, the ancestors, not even the ancestors, the descendants, are due some sort of reparations. You know, when people hear well, I'm not even gonna say people. Let's just get straight to the real shit. Let me pop back on camera for y'all. When white people hear the word reparation, they just get kind of funny style. These niggas want money. When the Jews asked for reparations and got them, it wasn't that, oh, they want money. No, y'all did them dirty and y'all ran that back. Y'all did us dirty and y'all gonna eventually run that back. The word reparation implies that a harm or a damage was done to another group on such a large scale that the motherfucker who did said damage needs to pay and try to make that thing whole again, which they have broken. That's like some universal law type shit. I come to your crib and I accidentally break the fucking vase that carried your Aunt Martha's ashes, nigga. I need to go and get another nice vase so that you could put them shits back and restore that shit. If I don't, there's gonna be a situation, an issue. But anyway, let's go on and run into this next thing here. So this is dealing with the post-genocide diaspora and the Soviet era, so late 19th and 20th century. Okay, so the Circassians played a significant role in the Turkish War of Independence and Turkey's intelligence agency. So on the flip side, you got this group of people who went through a genocide type situation that however you want to view it, learned lessons and was like, we ain't going through that really, we ain't trying to go through the bullshit ever again. So now they've begun to, in this scenario that is stated here, they've become part of Turkey's intelligence agency at that time. Because if we got the intel and we knowing what's happening, we ain't gonna, have no bullshit happen again. So now they exerting political and maybe even military control within Turkey based on what we're seeing here. And all of this stuff, the sources will be, at the end of the video. So, further it goes on to say, Circassians founded Amman and remain influential in politics and society. So, in the country of Jordan, they also have, established a power base there. So, Turkey, Jordan. Next, Circassians served in military and high-ranking positions. So now we add Syria, Libya. That's 4 countries that are people who have been displaced are part of the power structure. Next, you have the Abaza family, the largest Circassian clan in Egypt, significantly influenced Arabic intellectual and political life. Let's see here. So now, as in 1922, it states that the Soviet Union established an oblast that later became the Karachay Cherkess Republic. Russian policies encouraged assimilation, which threatened Circassian languages and culture. So there's quite a few different things going on. On one hand, their culture and language is being threatened, at least on the Russian side, pertaining to the the I'm not gonna say the vets, but the original Circassians that never left. Leonardo DiCaprio voice. We ain't fucking leaving. Them cats who never left, that's still there. It seems like Russian policies are trying to gradually wipe away their traditions and their language. All right. But on the flip side, in these other countries, as we pointed out, they've gained political and maybe even military power in these other countries that they've settled in. So now we come to the modern Circassian identity and recognition in the 21st century. So descendants of expelled Circassians advocate for international recognition of the Russian actions as genocide. Whenever you have a genocide or anything on that level, you can't have genocide without reparations to finish that math equation. You did us dirty, and now you motherfuckers need to pay. So now you see why I went on my rant earlier. It comes full 360. Also, I don't know if I put it in here as a I missed the bullet point, but in my research, this is also why during the Olympics, I want to say it was 2014 when they were trying to do the Olympics. It was either the Olympics, it was probably the Winter Olympics, but they tried to do one of them joints in Sochi, and I want to say the indigenous Circassians that were still there were like, hell no, y'all ain't doing this shit here. Committed genocide on our people, and then you want to have some Disneyland shit pop off where we at? Fuck y'all. And then that shit was dead, I think. I want to say it was dead. We could, hit me in the comments. Like I said, I glimpsed across it, but yeah, they was not really trying to hear that shit. And then some other bullet points here. It says about 800,000 Circassians remain in their historical homeland. Once again, we ain't leaving. That they should be thinking, because they've been there the whole time. There's about 4.5 million Circassians living in other locations globally. Once again, we touched on the fact that at least for the ones who are still back at the crib, back there in Caucasus Mountain region up there, their languages are in decline due to Russian assimilation policies. And Circassian soccer player Bibras Nacho is the captain of the Israeli national team, or was at some point, but clearly this must be very, very current. So thank you for taking the time to ride with me, taking this trip down history lane, and we'll catch you on the next one. Shit. Thank you for your time. You know what I mean? Like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you. Feel free to recommend any additional Caucasian cultures that's in that Central Asia, Eastern Europe region. We're gonna touch on all of them one way or another. This concludes part 17, and more is to come.